I'm going to hook him up. I'm going to send it to him. I did send it to his Gmail. He's so annoying. Okay.
And now Amara is moving. I feel like I'm in a Spike Lee. I'm in one of Spike Lee movies.
You're live.
The Dutch angle.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Wellness Wednesdays with Bahia and Dr. Joy and some incredible guests this evening. It has been a whirlwind. It has been a whirlwind. And I think that we're still in shock. And we're still, I think people are reserving their excitement. They're trying to, cautiously optimistic and for good reason. We have certainly gone through a battle, but the war is far from over. There he is. Welcome, Nadim. And I'm going to let Bahia actually introduce this session, which I'm really excited about. I'm actually meeting some new folks. I'm excited about the discussion. I think it's definitely timely, has been timely for a while, and I am always pleased, happy, gracious, and just feeling absolutely privileged to be in the presence of Black men. And to lean into the experience. We are here with you and for you. Take it from here, B.
Okay, so there, as you know, multiple levels of things that are happening and the impact of all those things that are having on all of us. And as you know, I run an organization called the Black Parent Initiative, and we had a session with our staff to talk about the work that we're doing with our families. And we have a lot that everybody expressed and experienced, but also there was a point where we had this taking back of our joy and of recentering ourselves and our missions. And so I was thinking about that idea. And so I was doing Baha'i Chat with Faith, and that's how I met Yusha. We were having a conversation around the kinship between the Quran and the Bible. Fascinating discussion, beautiful interfaith discussion we had. And then I followed up with him and we talked a little bit more about the work that he's doing. And so I will let him introduce himself in a minute. And then with Mr. Martin, I was following, he has I don't know if he has a podcast, but I know he has an Instagram. That's how I found him. It's called All Men Cry. And it really was investigating this conversation between men, different experiences, different backgrounds, and exploring their life from their own perspective. I thought that was great. And it just kind of happened around the same time. And then Sekou Suma, Darrell Walker, who was, I danced with him for years and years, West African dancing. And he's a dear, dear friend. We've had multiple conversations over the years about the complexities of Black male identity and, what's cool, what's not, how do you embrace all sides of who you are. Oh, yay, there's Paul.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay, great. And then you have Paul Brown, he's here. He has a podcast called It's Always Personal in Philadelphia. And he is also a barber, so he does a lot of work talking to men at barbershops. And then I have my brother Nadim, who's here, who also does a lot of work with men, in particular around domestic violence, prevention, and information. And then we go to Imara, who I've known I don't know how long, like my whole life, maybe.
A long time.
Who's always been, from my vantage point, he's a champion for social justice, but also always been in political arenas and navigating that space and maintaining his own sense of the moral compass and accountability and integrity. So I thought it was a good assortment of men here to have some conversations about wellness, about love, about vulnerability in a society that doesn't celebrate you, that doesn't see you as multidimensional, right? Having layers, having insights and wisdom. So I'm very excited to have you all here to explore this, especially considering what we're experiencing in this country right now. And just giving people a moment to breathe and to remember who we are, right? Randall Robinson, I think, said the worst thing you can do is to rob a culture or the memory of itself or something like that. Rob
us of the memory of ourselves.
Yeah, so this is part of us bringing back that memory to kind of get rid of the lie about who we are, so you can tell it yourselves the story of Black men. So if you could go through, I'm going to call on you so we don't get crazy, to introduce yourself, your work, and then after that, we'll go into our little questions, if that works. So we'll start with Imara, please.
So good evening, and it's an honor and blessing to be here with some powerful brothers and two righteous sisters. My name is Imara Kennedy, and I'm based here in Atlanta, Georgia. And as Bahia stated, I actually started my career as a journalist, and some kind of way found myself in politics, having worked for 3 of Atlanta's former mayors, and then for a period of time with Vice President Gore in his role as Vice President, and then have transitioned into kind of the world of philanthropy and the nonprofit sector. And so I'm currently working for a global nonprofit public health organization. I think that I would say part of the important part of my own identity is my identity as a Black man and my identity as a member of the Baha'i faith.
Thank you.
I like how you started that by saying one way that's part of your identity. I think that I would love for everyone to do that, some piece of their identity along with their introduction. It doesn't have to be the most important part, but maybe something unique or special. Can we go to Darrell?
Okay. Darrell Sekou Suma Walker. And guys, thank you so much for having me. I got the text from Bahia yesterday, and I was really excited. I was like, yes, like, let me know what's going on. So happy to be here. I teach West African dance and drumming in the Portland area. I've been teaching in Portland Public Schools for about 16 years. And I started dancing in 1998 and drumming in around about the same time. And it's just taken me like really far. I've traveled all over the world, Africa, Singapore, Mexico, Europe, just doing this art form. I'm mainly focused on the countries of Guinea, Mali, and the Ivory Coast with my dancing. And like Bahia said, she danced with me, still dances. We're not done, okay? For many, many years, I have a group here in Portland called Sebe Khan, and Sebe Khan means the serious sound. And this word Sebe in Manding means it's like a way of saying that it was meant to happen, like it was already written before it happened. So Sebe Khan. And I offer a younger version of my Sebe Khan group, my Sebe Khan Junior Company, where I work with about, how many we have now, close to 30 young African-American girls. We always welcome the boys, but it's tough to get the boys in there. We used to have a nice boys group, but it's been a while. And yeah, so that's what I do here in the community. And what were we talking about? Identity, I guess?
One piece of your identity. Mm-hmm.
One piece of my identity, just be, truth, dedication to whatever you choose to, do in life. Like once you set on a path, like, see it through and keep it going. Because I never thought, from being an athlete that, West African drum and dancing would take me like this far. So, yeah.
Thank you. Brother Yusha.
Thank you. Peace, everybody. Excited to be here. Thankful to be a part of this conversation. You never know where the Most High can take you. So you just lean in and trust and follow. Actually, so my name is Yusha Assad. I'm a hip hop artist, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur. I own a company called With Great Care, LLC, where our agenda is to push the idea that we shouldn't just strive to do great things, but we should strive to do all things with great care, purpose, and intention. As a hip hop artist, it started as a musical thing. It was a 3-part trilogy that we started releasing in 2013. And it was 3 small EPs connected to that: With Great Care, The Heart, The Struggle, and The Dream. And the intention was to, talk to people about what it looks like to follow your heart and then struggle to reach your dreams. But it's funny, the seeds that the Most High sows into us often have fruit that we don't expect, that are bigger than we expect when it's planted. And so With Great Care became more than just music. It became a real social movement that I now call social impact movement. So there's a few other things that we do with Great Care. We decided that beyond the music, we would want to dive into cultivating platforms that help to reveal, not revive, but reveal the hope that exists within our communities. And one of those platforms is something we do here in DC called Revival DC, which is based around entertainment. But the whole idea is just to use entertainment as a conduit to get people into a space to give love and energy and support so that they walk out feeling refreshed. There's a school-based campaign that we do called the Hope Campaign. It's a school residency program that I started here in DC, where we teach students how to do social impact campaigns as well, to change the paradigm of thinking within their school community, and then hopefully they'll take that into adulthood. Our most recent venture is March 5th. We released our clothing line, official clothing line with Great Care Apparel. That's super dope, and I'm thankful to be able to be able to put energy into it. And this is our first e-commerce thing. So this, we're looking to be able to grow, but ultimately spread the awareness of With Great Care through clothing as a visual walking marketing framework. And then the thing that I want to really highlight for this conversation is that last year I started it, and I'm going to do it again this May. For 31 days of May last year, I started something called the Heal Me campaign. My last album, I did a song with Raheem Devon called Heal Me. And it was about the dysfunctional messages that I received from my father about how to cope with pain, but what the real process looks like. So for 31 days of May last year, I talked to brothers who had been through a very difficult moment in their life. And we specifically were having conversations about, not only what they went through, but how they got past it and how they elevated and got back on their square. So I'm going to do that again this year, and just continue to push that. And if anybody wants to follow that, it is at the Heal Me campaign on Instagram.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Did you say one thing about your identity? Did you? I don't think you did.
One thing about my identity is that I am literally one generation removed from sharecropping. My father sharecropped, my mother sharecropped, even some of my older brothers and cousins sharecropped. Picking tobacco in North Carolina. So hard work is part of what we do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul.
Okay. Well, my name is Paul Brown. I set out to start a podcast. It's called It's Always Personal in Philadelphia. And it was just to find out how Philadelphia works, ultimately. I was driving around my city, and I was in Chestnut Hill, really rich area. And then I had to ride on my way to my house. I'm like, what happened along the path? Why does Philly look like this? Why do our communities look like that? And talking to my grandparents and other elders and people who I cut on both sides of the border, Philadelphia to Canada, it was something here. It was a system that I learned later on. And during COVID, I started editing my podcast, and I used Dr. Joy Degruy's voice with a beat on it probably 6 months ago. And it was probably the most lovely voice I ever heard in my entire life. And I knew that that woman right there was more powerful than Oprah Winfrey herself. I'm sorry. I love you, Oprah. I really do. And then I talked to her daughter, and now I'm here. And so about my personality, my ancestors came from Kemet, and we can build anything. We can go anywhere. We can do anything. And it's very important that our young people understand their worth and their history. And that's all I have.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin. What's
up? I'm actually kind of nervous. Y'all are really accomplished, wonderful people. I'm honored to be in the room. I just want to start off with that. But I just so my name is Martin Nunez Bonilla or Martin, depending on how you're feeling. I started the digital platform. That's a vague term. I started a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, website called Men Cry. And it started out as a YouTube series in which I kind of had one-on-one conversations with men, about their relationships with masculinity, and about the last time they cried, because I'm always curious about that. And it's evolved more into a series of like IG Live conversations and just kind of overall resource sharing and a space for people to talk about their experiences with masculinity. And yeah, that's what it is now. It's All Men Cry on Instagram. And yeah, that's like the main thing I do. But I work at a Bronx nonprofit called Phipps Neighborhoods. I work in their communications department, and basically our MO is social services for the South Bronx. And we provide like education empowerment and things along those lines. I think that's it. I'm in New York. I'm in Harlem. I'm in Sugar Hill. That's where I am. And you know,
Identity, piece of your identity.
A piece of my identity. Oh, that's a good question. I should have been thinking about it, right? I feel like I should have been thinking about it. I think a big piece of my identity is that I want to say I'm a human and I'm in progress. I think that's what I'm going to say.
I love that. Bring us back to my brother, Nadeem.
My son, Nadeem.
Hello. I'm very grateful to be in this space. Other than being the wonderful Dr. Degruy's son and Bahia's brother, I work in the community as a family care manager with a local nonprofit here in Portland. I've worked in nonprofit for about the last 7 years with various nonprofits, but the organization I work for is POIC. We're in their gear today. And we have a partnership with the local juvenile justice department where we provide wraparound services to any African-American youth who has an interaction with that system. So we have an early intervention program that targets youth who have their first contact or first touch with the juvenile justice department. And they provide basically services to try to help, divert that youth away from further penetration as far as the juvenile justice system. My program works with youth on probation. And so we're kind of tasked with assisting with these youth with basically taking care of all their court mandates. And we actually use Dr. Degruy's model, the relationship model, and that kind of helps to guide how we interact with our family, along with the theory of triadic influence, which is very similar to Dr. Degruy's model. And once again, focuses our attention on not just the youth, but the family, as well as their community connections. And, right now, there's a lot going on in our local community. I think right now, I was just telling my wife before I got on that I probably need to be doing a little more self-care. We've lost a lot of youth here in the community. We had a youth who actually was in our program in New Columbia, Bahia, back when you had that grant. And I don't know if this is the appropriate space to like share his name or something like that, but, I think, I was looking at some stats. I think here in Portland, the murder rate went up something like 1,600%. And our program is definitely, as well as our community, definitely felt the impact. So, I think I'm here, but I'm a little bit everywhere. I just got off work. And as far as you ask identity, I think like storytelling or truth telling, I say, I think I've got really great examples as far as how to be fearless as a Black man. My mom, my sister included, as well as other men in my life who've been great examples. And so I think having that gives me the courage, I think, to be able to tell the truth in some of these environments or circles I'm in through my work, and also tell our story. And I use the storytelling with our youth as well. But once again, that's me. Thank you guys. Appreciate being in this space.
Thank
you so much.
Wow.
So I don't know if you want to offer something, Dr. Joy,
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
go ahead.
I think that, and I was talking to my husband earlier, and something he brought up, we've talked about, people are familiar with something called disaster porn. where, you know, we become so absorbed in the disaster, we retell it over and over and over again. And I think we have to beware of this. I don't know what to call it, but it centers around racism and Black harm. And to the point where we find ourselves reliving it over and over again, sometimes in films that are coming out that are showing it over and over and over again, which kind of drills down this notion of not only victimhood, but of hopelessness. And I think we have to really be careful in how much we expose ourselves to that. And again, I'm not pouring any salt on artists, and especially in the film industry, where we are finally beginning to make our place in that space and to tell our stories and to show ourselves authentically. But I think we have to start telling all the stories, okay? And we have some incredible stories, as you've already been exposed to with these wonderful Black men that are here. And we need those stories. Our children need to see those stories. They need to recognize hope and triumph and brilliance and greatness and success and all of those things, which are very much an integral part of who we are as a people in terms of, again, our memory of ourselves. We need to create the positive memory. And I just wanted to close by saying that, you know, I'm in the business of making memories deliberately and intentionally. When my children are growing up, I knew that certain things that I was doing with them were going to be memories. So I created those memories for them, deliberately, intentional, wonderful memories that warmed them inside and that will carry them long after I'm gone. So I want to just really instill into our community, into our people, this idea of creating positive memory and looking forward to a very positive, continuous trajectory of growth. And thank you all for being here. I'm excited about all the things that everyone's doing. You know?
It was just perfect. It all started flowing together. I'm like, they're going to think I'm stalkerish, but you know, get on top of folks. So this is great. I want to dive into this because I think that it's along those lines. There's two things that have happened recently. Well, three things. Today was terrible. I had bad experiences with white people today, but I've had two experiences where white people and whiteness tried to steal my joy, suck the energy out of a space. And creatively and triumphantly, we were able to stop that. Now, of course, we can't do that always in every system that is, you know, we are finding ourselves oppressed by. But I do have a philosophy that you cannot oppress me. It's impossible to oppress me. It's just kind of a philosophy I have, right? I cannot be oppressed. So you can try, but I will not be oppressed. Now, I run an organization for Black and African-American, multiracial families. And all of my staff, except for one, are Black, right? It's great. I get to be so Black every day. But I will say that everybody was weighed down in our last staff meeting, just tears and checking in, and people just like, it's never going to change. And I'm hopeless. And I let everybody have their say. Everybody got to talk about how much they felt. And then I said, and so now we don't have the luxury of not showing our families the path to hope and faith. And we don't have that luxury. I said, and so we start to think about our ancestors, really think about it, really think about toiling every single day in a system that was not only designed to oppress you, does oppress you daily. And so experiencing that every day and not committing mass suicide is why we're all here. Therefore, we have a unique opportunity because we get to show up and be with each other. Let's find some gratitude in that. And let's find some more gratitude in the fact that we have an opportunity to spread joy and love directly impacting the families who are being so traumatized, right? So our sad fest turned into like a love hype fest, right? And something similar happened to me doing an EDI training. Well, actually it wasn't even training. It was a culturally specific meeting for employees of color for a county government system. And a white guy decided to infiltrate and try to center himself. And we just made it a cultural love fest, and it was defeated. this was defeated. So what I'm going to ask you to start with right now, to set us off, because I want the tone of all the conversation may get a little deep, but the tone of this, I want you to think really deeply about something that brings you so much joy that if you were to specifically focus on that thing, right, that it would sustain you. It would bring you out of wherever you were. Not necessarily something philosophical. It could be anything. It could be your child. It could be your whatever. But think about that one thing about you or your life, whatever it is, that when you think about it, fills you up and makes you. It gives you that sustenance to move forward. Anybody can start. Okay, go, Paul.
All right. So right now my podcast is it because I have listeners in 35 different countries and it's growing. It built it by hand and I could care less because my daughters will hear this when I pass away. So when I do these episodes, I'm teaching them how to love themselves. And I just recently found out after our episode, I cannot truly love my children or my wife without truly loving myself. And now they have that forever. Even if I die, my audience is them. So that's why I love this and my wife. They know I love them. That's it.
KD?
Yeah, mine's similar. Just my family, my daughters, all three of them, and my circle. Like I know that I have my family, my wife, my daughters, and then that circle, and that circle includes you, Bahia, and Auntie Joy. I like. I know if I'm ever feeling any kind of way, I can pick up the phone, call, ask any kind of questions, get any kind of help or therapy, so to speak, if I need it. But and then I will also add in there just what I do for a living with my drumming and dancing. I'm so passionate about it. It it's like a moving target. Like you're never gonna you're never gonna nail it down and know everything. So like I'm always growing, learning everything with what I do. And then when I bring that back to the dance floor and I'm teaching that and putting that on the youth and to the children and other places that I teach, that's like the best thing. And that brings me out of like anything I'm feeling, especially like with what's going on in the world right now. I'm very in tune with what's going on. I feel all types of ways about it. But yeah, just grounding myself and knowing that I'm here for my family and I have to be the best version of myself, and I can rely on my my circle. And it's not a large circle. It's a nice, powerful, just intimate circle of people that I can access and share with.
Thank you.
If we popcorn and I'll jump in. It could be a plethora of things for me. But one of those things is definitely my daughter. She's a light to me, Gianna. But ultimately, I've been practicing faith and finding the silver lining and the beauty so long that I have a memory of favor. So it's very difficult to oppress me as well. I'm free. But I have a memory of favor. And whenever a moment gets tough, it's just like I've already had too much evidence from God, from the Most High, that all things are working out for my good. So it's very hard to get me into any kind of space where I'm down like that, just because I have the evidence of God's favor.
Thank you.
Well, next, I'd say my children, just like everyone said so far, pretty much really like I think about their joy or them laughing. That really sustains me. Definitely my wife as well, prayer. And then I think cooking, routine recently. I think that's been something that's been helpful to do things as a family, things that would be chores, and trying to come together. I think that helps us sustain us all.
One thing that brings me a lot of joy is my mom. Thinking about my mom, I think being a first generation American, and my mom immigrated here from Dominican Republic. Whenever I think about the challenges I'm experiencing, I find my mother to be in an extremely large well of strength for me. I can call her about anything, and she'll pick up and be there. I think about my friends. So I mean, to be transparent, actually, I got laid off from my job yesterday, and my day job. And my best friend Dorian, another Black man. He was there for me, and we linked up. It was 420, and we had a good time. So I think about my friends, and I think about my friends being there for me, the same way my mother is, and my partner as well. I think about my partner, and kind of the support that she provides me. And yeah, I'm very fortunate to have really wonderful people in my life, and yeah, that's what I think of. That brings me joy.
Thank you.
I'll say a couple of things, actually. I mean, one thing that brings me a lot of joy is because I've been in the kind of the public service arena or nonprofit space for most of my career. It really brings me joy to really be able to be of service, and to have those opportunities. And I think, sometimes when we think our own stuff is really deep, the Creator kind of puts us in spaces to show us what really deep really is. And not that it lessens, the things that we're dealing with in our own lives, but I think it balances some perspective. And I think it also just brings me a lot of joy to be able to give. I think, as some of the brothers have said, is that there's so many of us that have really been blessed. I think at the end of the day, I know that I come home, I have a roof over my head, I have a car to drive, I have food on my table. It may not be all the food I ever wanted, but there's sustenance to eat, and to just be in spaces, just knowing that folks don't have the basic things that they need, that some folks are living 10, 15 folks literally to a household just to survive. So it helps to put some perspective for me, but to be able to just, even in the challenges of my job, I feel blessed that every day I get to go, literally every day I get to go and be of direct service to Black people, especially. So that brings me a lot of joy. And then probably on a lighter, more superficial level, and Bahia's gonna hate this because she quietly has a jealous streak around this, but I think one of the greatest blessings in my life is my brother and sisterhood and safe space with Joy. So being with Joy brings me joy because, we may not see each other for days or weeks, but then it's like, then we'll go like hours and hours and hours and hours of just, and that just brings me joy when you really recognize those people in your life that love you unconditionally. And just that it's the simple fun. It's nothing deep, it is, and that you can call, and like I did the other night and said, okay, it's getting a little deep out here in these streets. We coming over to your house, so just having that relationship with Joy, and now with her husband, who I happen to know beforehand, that's a whole other story.
That's actually a good story, because two things I have to say. I'm not jealous. What it is Imara gets hooked up to, he goes all kinds of places. Mom was going to some summer jam one year talking about, salt and pepper. I said, if you're saying pepper, you shouldn't be going. If you don't know it's pepper, you shouldn't be going. Why is she going? She's like, oh, and I knew this one woman, what's her name? Scott. No, you should not be going. That's what I used to get mad about. Like, why am I not with Imara? You should not be going to those things. Okay, but here's a good thing about connection. Amara is the reason why my mom is married to Latif, but I'm the reason why Darrell is married to Karita. Love connections. When you have a deep connections, right? He said to me, I'm thinking about trying to hook her up with the guy sitting next to her. And I was like, okay. And I called Darrell and I was like, hey, remember my friend Karita? And Karita was like, I'm not interested. And I was like, I'll tell him to fall back. And I was like, Darrell, all green lights.
And the rest is history.
You know, when you love people, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta
Sometimes you gotta help people help themselves.
That's right. That's
right. But see, that's true love. And that's
true love.
Coming to my next question. When we talk about love, one of the things that I thought was so dope about Martin's Instagram stories, the IG stories with men that you were having a conversation with, I think he was like I don't know if he was like Afro-Latino man, he was gay, and he were talking about the people, the gay straight narrative, right? Having conversations with Black men across the board, they're having certain experiences, but that they don't necessarily have those exchange. And that was, I think, the first one that I was like, this is really dynamic because you were really caring and compassionate, not having had the same lived experience as this man. And so I thought that was really dope. And so I started to think about, because he was talking about his breakup, right? And having heartache. And so I started to think about how critical it was for you to be able to be there for him in that conversation, and thinking about across the board, when we're talking about masculinity and love, how do we define that? And what does love look like in action? So I would like you to now, and people can jump in, everyone doesn't have to answer everything if you don't feel like it, but really, when you think about what love is, one singular piece of that, what is that definition like when I think of love, I think of this. And how do I see that in action? How does somebody show love in their actions? And it doesn't have to be, again, however we want to gender the masculinity in this space is completely safe to do so, because I think people should be able to see the diversity and how you can show up in your masculinity. It doesn't have to be one way. So I would love for someone to start to talk about, what is love and what is it in action? Okay, Paul, you ready?
I'm on Instagram or TikTok and I see James Baldwin, his speech. It doesn't matter what his sexual orientation is. I get the message and I will vote for him if he was running for president, if he was running for senator. I know he has my best interest at heart. And this is a man who loves me and I love him back. It's that simple for me.
Mm-hmm. And if I could piggyback off of that, I think about, and Joy, we were talking about this some time ago. I think about what our African brothers and sisters say when they say, I see you. To me, that is the deepest and most profound statement of love, that no matter what else embodies this, no matter what else, the world sees you, I see who you are. And to me, when someone says that, and we've actually done that before, I've done that with my staff to do what we call validation circles. And I make them look into each other's eyes, and you start off with, I see you. And I think that is the most powerful exemplification of love, when someone can say, I see you, and because I see you, I love you.
Yeah, I'll follow up from that. Me and my daughter, we have a morning affirmation. We talk about what love is. And the first thing we say, that love is something that you do. So we take it out of the concept of just feeling. We say love is something that you do. And she follows up by saying it's something that you do to show appreciation or understanding, right? Appreciation when someone is doing well, understanding when they're not. And I think that's really connected to the idea of I see you, right? Because we choose to see the truth of who a person really is, like, what they were sent in this earth to be. So I'm gonna make sure that I do something so that you feel appreciated, you feel welcome, you feel loved. And then on the days when you're not necessarily being able to live up to your highest integrity, your highest value, I'm gonna show understanding for that, because we've been through situations where we didn't live up to our highest value or understanding. So that's how we activate love in our family, in our clan.
Yeah.
You go. You want to go?
All right, sure. The truth and the trust for me, seeing that in action. just knowing that I'm in a space around people, but in particular with my wife here, knowing that I can trust her and uh, I can just be me, open, vulnerable. I know we're going to get into that word a little later, but I'm bringing it up now. And just feeling that from all types of ways, whether it's on a bad day, a good day, or any kind of way it is, just knowing that it's there, and then seeing that in action with the empathy and the what do you call it? I'm losing the word. Sorry, but yeah, just empathy, affection, empathy, conversation. Oh man, we have so many conversations in this house about all type of things, and just seeing that, and we, um, you know, we turn that all around and we put that on the girls, and they feel it and they understand it, and they're starting to show the same type of traits that we have with each other towards us. So it's being reciprocated and put back on us. So it's a wonderful thing, and yeah, the trust and the truth is my definition of it, and then seeing it in action, that's the most important part.
Absolutely. And I think just adding to what everyone else has already said, I think patience. I think that um, being able to see somebody and being able to understand somebody, I think patience is an important aspect to add to it, because you have to be patient sometimes when somebody isn't being the fullest version of themselves, or the best version of themselves. Just because we, as Yusha said, I think as Amara said, like we all have those moments, and being seen, being understood, and just being waited on, if that's what's necessary. Yeah.
I'll say for me, love, it comes back to what's getting relationship with my kids. I think about like moments and interactions. I think the way I love them or show them love, and also I think the way that I feel their love back on me. I think it's unconditional. It's without judgment. And I think there's a part of it about I'm accountable to them. I have to do, even when it comes to like the way that I take care of myself, I'm accountable to them. And I think even how I walk through life myself, that's with love for them. But yeah, a lot of stuff is weighted in my kids.
Something
Wait,
was
after, wait, so no, Imara, then mom. Go ahead.
okay.
And
No, I
you
was just thinking,
unmute yourself, and next time, mom. Don't.
no, sorry. I was just thinking it was very interesting because for the brothers who have children, it was interesting to me that the correlation of love is connected to their children. You know what I mean? Or their spouse. But when I was thinking about this conversation, it just spurred to me, how do we exemplify love amongst brothers? Particularly in a society that says that is not, quote unquote, the norm,
I was just, I mean, Dr. Joy, if you want to go, you're more than welcome. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I was in response to Mara. I think it's time. I think it's giving your brothers your time, because we're all imperfect, and I think I think this is something that a lot of women in my life personally have kind of mastered, is this idea of showing up. Like, I'm not perfect right now, but I'm there for you and I'm giving you my time. And I think that's the most valuable thing that you can give someone, regardless of what resources you actually have to offer, or whatever it is. Like, you give someone your time, that's something that you never get back. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, incredibly impactful. So that's what I think about my brothers and with the men in my life, is giving them my time. I just wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, I like that response, Martin, and I'm glad that Imar asked that question. That's something I dealt with for the last year. So I had a good friend of mine. They were doing this presentation and they asked two questions, and the questions almost brought me to tears. The first question they asked was, when you celebrate or when you do something good, who do you call? And I was like, man, I don't call nobody. I don't even celebrate myself. I don't celebrate what I do, right? And then they asked the question, when you go through something difficult, who do you call? And I was like, dang, I don't call nobody. I suck that in and I hold that in and figure it out. And then I realized that for me, love, at least for me and my brothers and my closest homies, was going to be my vulnerability, my ability to share my successful moments with them, whether it be a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and my ability to communicate when I might be dealing with something with them so that they can show up for me, because I wasn't allowing that. And so for me, for my brothers, right, it's still time too, right? But I didn't went from barely talking to one of my homies every like 6 months, and we be good, right? It's like that every 6 months, like, you and Dr. George's relationship. But now, man, we talk every week. And even if it's just to like share something good, or even if it's like, this is what I'm dealing with, we've increased that communication to let each other know that we in tune, we locked in.
Well, just really quickly to interject and I'll let Mom talk.
Actually, I don't want to say anything. I want to hear more from
part of my sinister plan. No, I'm just kidding. But part of my plan also in this was thinking about all the work that you are all doing, which is unique and interesting and important and vibrant, and thinking about how much the work that you do is so different, but so important and critical that this becomes a network of connection, right? One more step to connection, somebody who you maybe wouldn't have met except for the fact that these little Bahia's machinations put together, that maybe you have a connect with someone on another coast in another place who's experiencing something completely different, that you have extended network, right? Through good people, good hearts, good intentions. And that's my hope, is that this will be a model for how people start to try to make connections, unusual connections, right? Going to a Black college far away from home gave me one of my best friends in the world, right? So sometimes those things happen and it's not by accident, right? To me, it's not by accident. Did you want to say something?
I just want to ask a question, and it's something that I don't want to, whenever you want to ask it, but it's this idea of what you would say. I'm always thinking, I put out there on my Facebook, please lean into this. There are young brothers out there that don't know how to find that connection. They need it, they crave it, they yearn for it, but they don't know how. And I just would like, before we leave this platform, for you to give some words of wisdom of what you would want to say to them, to give them hope, to give them inspiration, whatever comes up for you that you want them to remember or think about, because they don't have you, maybe, but they need to know from you, not from me and not from B, but from you. So before we close, I just really would love for you to give that.
Can I go for this one?
Yep, I'll go.
I'm a barber. Like now, I'm a barber when I'm not podcasting, and it wasn't my original career. I always wanted to do it ever since I was 15 years old. Somehow it just found me. In a whole different country, entirely different city. I don't know. I probably only know 3 men in my life who actually had a father who had something to do with raising them. Most of the men who come through these doors had to raise themselves. They're the most remarkable men I could ever come across. And I built my clientele by just having people I could have a conversation with. These guys from all walks of life. And one of my good friends, he's an ex-OG, ex-gangster. You know what I'm saying? I cut his son. And unfortunately, his youngest son saw him do a few of the things that he's not proud of now and mimics the behavior a bit. And when he came into the shop, it's COVID. Everybody wears a mask. He wore a whole ski mask into the barbershop. Like, oh, bro, what are you doing? And I had to explain to him, like, listen, man, I had to post on Instagram when your dad said you was missing. I had to post it on my IG. I was scared to death. I love you that much, where I would go to war if I found out somebody killed you in these streets, or law enforcement killed you in these streets. That's how much I love you. I love you like you're my family. And we need to love each other like we love, like that. So if something happens to you on either coast, I'm going to war for you. I'm a kamikaze now. Be careful out here. I'm a barber, dog. Like, this is what I do. I'm around people all day who I love. I built this by hand for people I love. We need to build our own things. Your support's out there. Ask people to listen to you. And people who don't listen to you, don't go to them. That's what I can tell the youth.
I would say, just touching on Bahia said about, connecting, or maybe that was Joy. I'm sorry. The connection, just what I do for a living is connecting me with people all the way across the country. One of my closest friends and dear friends, Mahiri, he was your bride. What do you call it? Your groomsman in my wedding. B Mahiri. Just having a connection, just it's for what I would say to young men is, if you are like looking for that connection and you have the opportunity, is to use your voice, like speak up, talk to brothers. That sparks the connection right there. Just talk with people, find out the similarities in your life or the differences and things like that, and those conversations being had. That's how me and Mahiri cultivated our relationship. Just always talking, and is strange. Those talks were not always like about drumming and dancing. Like we would always talk about like life and like how we grew up, a lot of jokes and laughing. He's like, he would always say, man, you're doing the same thing on the West Coast we were doing back east, like all the time. Like I've heard that phrase from him so many times. And from there, just meeting other people and just talking and speaking up, and you just kind of grow the connection. So if maybe if you're an introvert, just try to just try to say something and connect a little bit, and use your voice, to open up and get to know people. Because like Joy was saying, that you crave it, you want it, but you may not know how um, to go about it. But I would say definitely just speaking, an introduction, a dab or something, starts all of that, and you can get it going. You see it all the time. I was an athlete, and we would go to camps, things like that, football camp, baseball, things like that. That's what we had to do. Everybody's probably nervous about what they're going to showcase, who's watching them, who's better or whatever, and things like that. But the one thing that we did is that we always just spoke with each other. And you leave those camps with 2 or 3, 4 new people that you met that you really like. And for me, it was another way to go to that camp again. Maybe there's some things about that camp I didn't enjoy, but because that person that I met, told me that he's going to be there next year, and we live miles apart, different states, but he said he was going to be there, so I'm going to be there, and then we connect again, and we could share a whole year's worth of being apart. And back then in the 90s, we had no social media, no way, but a phone dialing 10 digits. That's the only way we could talk. But you see them again, you share, and it's beautiful. So that's what I would say.
Thank
Is
you.
use your voice, yeah. Just speak.
I guess I'll keep it simple. I think when I think about love, or as far as connection, for myself, like the lessons that I learned later in life and what I would probably try to pass down to younger generations or even my son is to recognize love when the people around you have your best interests at heart or they're delighted in your success. People who want you to win. Not to say that, everybody around you is against you, but I think sometimes that's kind of unique when you start to see people who even when you yourself are kind of going off the path, will kind of nudge you the right way because they want you to win, or they want you to be successful. They don't want you to fail. And, I think also, one of my mentors is also a guy I used to work with, Elijah Joshua. He actually called me this morning. And as much as I feel grown, Elijah's probably, almost 20, 30 years older than me. And he's done the same work I've done. And he's been through triple my lifetime in terms of struggle and triumph. And he'll just hit me up. And it's almost weird because it's like right when I need it. And I guess what I would say to young folks is not pushing away, the old heads or folks who are trying to help you. I think even myself, sometimes it feels awkward to receive love. And so there's like almost a knee-jerk reaction, to kind of do something like that. But, I think Elijah gets through that. He sees me and even sometimes he'll just show up, and put himself right in my life. But I think that's my definition.
I think to piggyback off the thought from Nadeem, which was, I think, really wonderful. I think one thing I would tell, especially young men, because you have time, is to listen to your gut. I think when we're growing up and we're being socialized to be men, we're often taught to turn parts of ourselves off. We're taught to not feel that feeling or not like that thing. And we're never taught to be ourselves. We're supposed to do the opposite, right? In a lot of different situations. And my thing is, it's all about listening to yourself. Like if you're in a situation where you feel uncomfortable, like don't ignore that, like there's value in those emotions, right? Like those emotions come from something and they carry information. So I think that's definitely one thing I would say. And the other thing is to keep learning. I think learning, you have the internet. If you have access to the internet, like keep learning, because the more you learn, the more you realize that there's other ways to be a human being. Like there's no one way to do life, and that's essential for more young men to feel comfortable being themselves, right? Like the way that people are modeling either masculinity or just being a person in general in your community is not the only way to do that, right? So obviously, if you feel comfortable with that and you want to be that, like that's okay, right? But if you're in search of something else, like you have the tools and the access to information, like go out and do that, and just keep learning. Read. That's a good tip in general. And the last thing I would say is just look for your community. I think we're not always born in the communities that we're supposed to be in or that we feel at home in. And I have that personal experience, especially as someone that's moved around a lot. It was hard for me to find community. So look for your community and try to create community wherever you go. Because that brotherhood, friends, people that you feel connected to, as everybody else has been saying, is really, I think, one of the keys to maybe not necessarily living a happy life, but a life that you feel happier about, if that makes sense, right? 'Cause that doesn't solve all your problems, but having people with you to support you is a good way to get through.
I think on Martin's note, something that was came to my spirit, that because I'm dealing with this now, quite honestly, B, is that my sister has 4 sons, all of varying ages, and to try to elevate what my feelings are about their individual fathers. As I said, their fathers right now, because of where they're at, cannot be all the man that they possibly would want to be for their sons. So I've been put in this role, especially with the transition of my father, to now be the male figure in their life. And I say, thank God, that they do come to me. Sometimes I say, thank God. Sometimes I think, are you crazy? But but I think about what I say to them, first of all, is, and I think we'll all get the apropos of this, is that all boys don't wear blue. So that's the first thing that I would say. And the second thing that I think is critical is to say, just how we say that everybody your color, not your kind, everybody who says they're your brother is not your bruh. And to be clear that what our society has defined as masculinity is sometimes actually toxic masculinity. And the real masculinity is when you can hug another man and say, I love you, and be all right with it, and not worry about what the world says. When you can lift up your partner, whether it's male or female, and be all right with it. When you can elevate your sisters and your mothers and know that it's, and excuse my French, know that it's not only right, but it's inappropriate, and it's not of what the kings and queens that we come from to call them bitch or hoe, and know that it's all right. To know that real masculinity is when you can wake up each and every day and go handle your business in a way that a king would handle his business. And I remind myself, and one of the things that, and Joy, I think about, our conversations about both of our experiences going to the motherland. And I said, God, if I only had $5 million, all that I would want to do was to take every Black boy to any country in the continent and let them see that they are seen. And so to me, when I think about what these young brothers need is just to know that, gang banging, that ain't a real thing. That don't mean you cool or you down, and that's not a reality for those brothers that really go down that journey. They're just seeking for something else. I really believe that. And to be able to really look, I really have, and I've had to grow to this experience, because though my father was very present in my life, even though my parents were divorced when I was 5, and he was very present, and may he rest in peace. And I thank God for the man that he really strived to be. But the thing that I recognized that was absent in the sharing of our manhood, and that was absent in the sharing of the manhood with them as his grandsons, was absent in the sharing of my grandfather with my father, with me as his grandson, was to simply say, I love you. And so now, when I talk to those young brothers, and I have 4 of them, and I said, are my nephews, I don't end the conversation, even if it's a rough conversation, even if I don't agree with nothing that they're doing or saying, with saying, but you know what? I heard you and I love you. And the most powerful thing that has ever happened to me, and this experience as now an adult, is to hear them say, they call me Uncle Wick, because everybody black got a nickname, is to say, Uncle Wick, I love you too. So I think there's nothing more powerful than we can just say to our young brothers, be who you are, it's okay. And who you think you are today, you're probably not going to be that tomorrow. But most importantly, I love you and I want you to love you no matter who you are, and to recognize that you live in a country that's not going to love you. So know that your crew, whoever that crew is healthy. And if I'm the only one on that crew, I love you. And I love you for who you are, who you think you might want to be, who you're trying to be, and that we're on this journey together, because I don't know who the hell I am, or I'm just trying to figure out who I'm trying to be. So I'm not perfect, you don't have to be perfect, but I love you.
Love too, bro.
Thank you. Paul has something to say too. Paul, did you want to say something?
Oh, I live in Philadelphia, and this is a really violent city, like right now, because of the system that we are living in. You got to think about it. They'll spend $50,000 to incarcerate these young men, and only $16,000 for their education. And unfortunately, that system, I could leave out this barbershop today and get shot in the head by somebody in the system who is suffering from poverty. I could be broker than them. This is the system we living in. And unfortunately, we got to celebrate every moment like this because we don't know when it's going to come tomorrow. We don't know what's happening tomorrow, nor should we even care. Every time I do an episode, I can say I can die today and be a happy man. We got to find these things. We got to find things, people we love. We got to connect with them. Life ain't promised for nobody. So let's celebrate while we're here, y'all.
I had a question. Oh, my bad, man. It was just something that came up as Imara was talking, and not to challenge. I've sometimes checked my oppositional defiance because I have an oppositional nature. So sometimes everything's leaning one direction, I just start to tilt the other way. And I was thinking about vulnerability and all the stuff you guys are talking about, the gangs and these things that we're seeing in our communities. And then I'm thinking about my son and masculinity and vulnerability and where that fits in with his life. And he's just at an age, he's 9, so he's just starting to have his first racial incidents, right? And so there's a part of me that has to teach him not to be too vulnerable with folks, because to expect that they're going to see your humanity right off the bat would be, especially here in Portland, it's not good parenting. And I'm sorry, I don't want to shift the conversation on the positive, but it's like, and we struggle with this well. We struggle well with this in terms of trying to have these conversations and be light about it and show them how to advocate for ourselves and be strong in situations. But I think there's a part about it, like you gotta have thick skin to be Black in this country, no matter where you are. And I think you can go way over extreme. And that's where we got the gangs and these things that it's just basically armor that you're putting on when you go outside, But then there's the layer that also is like going to keep the germs and you need a little bit of that, because especially, like I said, out in Portland, not that it's just the worst place in the world, but the microaggressions are heavy. And I'm seeing it on my kids already. And so teaching them I'd hate to, not to say not to be vulnerable, but teaching them to endure, teaching them to be able to see it, shake it off, understand what it is and kind of keep it moving, because they're not always going to recognize your humanity. And I've seen them hurt already when they're expecting that they're going to get treated just like the kid next to them. And I think that has everything to do with everything we're saying,
But, and I hear you, Nadim, and I do think this though. I think that buffering them in a sense is like giving them a protection, like recognizing it's almost like the Matrix, right? In some ways, it's like when they would go into the Matrix, right? They knew that they were not in the real place. They still had cool clothes, but they were going into the Matrix. I feel like with my daughter, for instance, right? My daughter and my son are not the same exact complexion. And whenever I go into certain places, a lot of Asians in Oregon, Asians always are the ones that made a comment or would notice the difference the most, right, between them. And I was always trying to overthink what's going to happen when somebody hurts my daughter. We can talk about her being dark or hurts my daughter. Always this concern that I had, right? How do I don't want to tell her, well, they're going to say this because you're dark on one hand, even though it's probably going to happen, right? I know that's probably going to happen, but I don't want to injure her to be injured, right? Injure her first. So I would say, okay. So I started to try to work it out to where in her mind, oh, that person doesn't have a clear sense of reality. Like they're going to say something to me, but they're twisted. They're not right. Like, I know it's going to happen, but it's not going to hurt me because it's not real. Like, I get what you're, what I'm saying? Like, so for me, it was like, that's the dance for me, was to say, yes, this is going to probably happen, but that's because this is twisted and it's not right. And to continue to show the evidence of why it's not right, the evidence of why that's sick, the evidence why you're there's something missing there where they don't see it. That truth helped her so much. So when she started to finally hear this stuff, oh, team light skin and all those stuff, she was just like, oh yeah, that's some crazy, like it wasn't as, I didn't want to be like, well, they're going to say you're dark. Because I feel like even saying that to her, you know what I'm saying, would be so I could say, well, they're going to say that to her anyway. So I want her to know people have colorism out here. But the reality is to continue to tell her what the truth is. You're beautiful. When we have certain dance teachers say, you look like a Ghana girl. And she'd be like, I look like a Ghana girl. And not. So when somebody's like, I ain't no African, she can recognize, oh, that's an injury over there. That's, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Because she has the truth. So I do get it. But I also think that they get to hold on to the truth, They should be able to hold on to the truth, to me.
Paul, I know you raised your hand. If you don't mind, bro, I want to follow that up. Yeah, I had a hard time really thinking about what I would tell the youth. Not because I don't have anything to tell them. I have too much to tell them. It's like, if I had one thing to leave, what is the one thing we would leave? Like, God, that's difficult. But I was reflecting on like what really resonated with me. And when I was growing up, my father was a Baptist minister. So we was in church constantly. And the preaching of that time that was developed really from that chitlin circuit type of preaching was very emotionalized, which was cool, but it never really sat with me. Like we could get excited, we could do all of that, but the things that really sat with me was truth. I needed truth. And so one of the things I do when I really thought about what I would tell you is there's actually something that I actually, whenever I go into a room, whenever I do programming at schools and I have to talk to youth, I lead with these three things because they are true. They are evident proof. And I tell students, in order to get them to trust me off gate, I tell them, I'm not a motivational speaker. If you think I'm a motivational speaker, you're lost. I'm simply going to tell you the truth. You can motivate yourself with it. And there's three things I tell them. You are a natural winner, you're unique, and you were born to help others. And the proof that I give them as evidence is the fact that, and I won't make it long, but this is the proof that I give them. I tell them you're a natural winner because the process of your father releasing sperm, somewhere between 1 million and 1 billion sperm cells, and only one of them can win. In order for you to be a human, you got to win first. That's just natural process. You can't even be here if you don't win. So that's the evidence for that one, right? The one about you being unique is that we all know, right, scientifically, that all human beings are 99.99% just alike. But that 0.01% of difference is what makes the human being unique. The fingerprint makes the human being unique, right? So I'm able to point to evidence. And then being able to tie into that you were born to help others, I do a business question. And that business question I asked him, I said, if you are the only you on the planet, and there's 8, 9, 12, we keep growing, right? I think last time I looked, it was like 8 billion. But I just use the number 8 billion. If you're the only you on the planet, and it's 8 billion people, what good would it be if you had your gift, if you thought your gift was yours, instead of using it to help other people? Imagine if your gift, and I'll tell them, I'll say, imagine if your gift, the gift that you have is worth $20. If you gave it to people for $1, ain't that kind of like giving it away? And they'd be like, yeah. I was like, well, imagine if you gave it to 1 million people. And that even allows me to just put them in a conversation of like, yo, if you can find that unique thing that's about you instead of trying to fit in with the crowd, then your gifts and your talents will make a way for you, right? So this is the conversation that my father gave me in church, that motivation. All your gifts and talents will make a way for you. But where do those gifts and talents come from? They come from biologically that you are 0.01% different than the rest of everybody on the planet. And that's the only thing that allows me, right? Because as Dr. Joy would say, we're really creating commercials of thought that allow us to believe in the truth and the hope of who we truly are that will propel us to these great futures, right? It's really social impact marketing. But unless I'm there every day and can be the example of what that hope looks like, and I only got a chance to drop a seed, I want to drop you something that's so factual that you can't just say I came in and said something to motivate you. Nah, that's truth. You got to sit with that and then allow that to motivate you over time based on how you use it. And it just comes back to truth, what you said here, and it also comes back to what Daryl said earlier when he talked about love. He said love is trust and truth. And that's what I would want to leave with you, something that they can scientifically put evidence behind so they can believe me.
Wow. Oh, geez. There was something that everyone here touched upon, every single one of you, that I appreciate. And I want you to know, as fathers, as friends, as brothers, as uncles, how important you are. And particularly to girls. It is so important for them to be able to rest on your chest. To know that you are there and to be so sure and clear about your love that they don't have to seek it in dark spaces. I want you to know how important you are to us as women. I want you to know how important you are to the world. And I'm not just saying that to, kind of big you up. I'm saying that to you because truly, when I think about who my brothers and my father and my uncles and all of you, I mean, Mara and I go way back, and we have those deep conversations. And I appreciate who you are, and I wanted to. I know my husband is it's Ramadan, so I know wherever he is, he's been eating wherever he is. But I wanted to say something about my experience with him. You know, a lot of folks, we go through a lot of things, and I wasn't looking for anybody when I met Latif. I was good. You know, I really was good. I was
prepared to live with me forever.
No, I wasn't gonna live with you forever. I was leaving the country. But one of the things that happened that my husband did that I thought was, I mean, it really sealed it. You know, once we got past the 3 game changers. You know, you can't be chasing skirts and looking, wandering eye. If this first date, I said, if you got that problem, you still don't know how to keep, then no, that's a game changer right there. Number 2, if you have an addiction, I'm going to pray for you. Okay, but I'm not going to live with you. And number 3, I can never under any circumstances be afraid. Those are my game over, any one of those. And he was like, but what was really more important to me was something that occurred, you know, when things got rough. So in that very short time, because we knew within 3 days, see, once you're in your 50s, you know, there's no game in it. This is how I'm going to show up every day. This is who I am. I'm not, no game in it. So you get to that point really fast when you know, in your 50s. But what happened was my son, my oldest son, had been arrested, wrongly arrested, in Wisconsin during a blizzard while I was, you know, in Georgia. And I cannot tell you the terror that happened in my heart. This is a man I've, you know, just met. He calls me in the middle of me talking to sheriffs and everyone else because someone had drugs that weren't, he didn't have the drugs. There was a white boy that had the drugs that admitted he had the drugs, and they arrested my son. He is in Wisconsin and there's a blizzard, so I can't even get to him. So you can imagine what's going on in my heart about my son. But what I forgot about my son was who he was. And wherever he is, he radiates love. And he radiates. And when I spoke with the sheriff, so Latif calls me in the middle of it. He calls me, he goes, hey, you know, and I said, look, I can't talk to you. You know, there's something going on. Son's been arrested. You know, he goes, okay. So I'm talking to sheriff, then I talked to the jail. I mean, and then I talked to Malik Youssef, who's out of Chicago, who said, if I got to get a snow truck, I will be there on Monday. He ain't going to be there. And Malik Youssef, if you know anything about him, he was going to show up. So I'm trying to deal with all of this. And of course, my heart is beating out of my chest. So I get another call about 20 minutes later. And it's Latif, and he says, do you need me to come to be with you right now? And for a moment, you know, it's been, I didn't even know where to go. And I realized, I said, yeah, I do need you to come. And he said, then open up the door. I heard it in your voice. And in that moment, I mean, when I think about it now, that he could feel where I was. He had the intuition to know. And I said, and what if, Latif, I had said, no, I don't want you to come. He said, I would have walked away and you would have never known I was there. And that I had never felt in my life. Someone who could feel my need and show up for it. And I appreciate you all showing up today. I appreciate you showing up as your full selves. I watched my son emerge as a man in a miraculous way. I watched him become a father and I was humbled. I watched how tenderly he dealt with his children and his wife, and I watched him grow himself. I watched my daughter, and I'm going, my goodness, you are my gift. If this is all I have done, then I have done well. And I want, you know, everyone out there that's listening to know that we are all human and we have good days and we have bad days. And I would encourage you that when someone falls, help them. Help them. Because you too may fall and need help. And all of us, no matter how important we think we are, no matter how many degrees behind our name, no matter how much money or fame, We are human beings, and we have failings and we have fear. But the most important thing we have to know is that we are loved, that we are seen, and that it's okay to show up in your authentic self. And there will be people there that will embrace you the whole way. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Please wait before you go. Please say again your business or your work so people can find you, and type it into, actually, just so it's in, say it. We'll have someone type it into the chat. Saida, if you could type these into the chat, that would be great. Great. So I said great. That's like Elmer Fudd. Okay. Nadeem.
I'll go first. I gotta get to dinner. First of all, I wanted to say, I don't know how many people are watching this, but I'm Dr. Degruy's youngest son. I ain't been in no jail in Wisconsin.
But you've been close.
Just got put out there. But
I forgot. I should have probably.
You meshed the story together and started talking about my kids. And I'm like, wait, but I just got to make sure the world knows. But I'm a family care manager. I work with POIC Community Healing Initiative. And I'm a proud father and husband.
The son was released. He was, because he didn't do it.
He lives with me. Yeah. That one. Okay.
I'll go next. So you can find, currently I'm teaching 2 Zoom classes, Tuesday and Sundays, Tuesday evening, 6 p.m., Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. You can find out information about that. Sekou Suma African Dance and Drum. Sekou, S-E-K. She said I'm going too fast.
I think everybody's going too fast, Sekou, so don't worry about it.
Okay, she said everybody.
Forget it. I don't even know what I'm typing at this point. So all of you put it in the chat and then I'll put it online.
I'll write that all in the chat.
Type it in the chat. Type in the chat, but say it, but then type in the chat.
Yes, West African dance classes. Classes are amazing. They're fun, live drumming, great musicians, and we have a great time. And right now we have a lot of people joining me from all over the nation: Jersey, Chicago, the Bay Area, Virginia, in Baltimore, places like that. So yeah, check me out.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, come on, businesses. Say it. You gotta say it and then put it in the chat. Come on, people.
Showcase 001. You can find me on IG under Showcase 001 podcast. It's always personal in Philadelphia. Last story I had about the vulnerability piece. My uncle was very comfortable with his masculinity. He's a man who was molested by his basketball coach when he was a child, Hunting Park. What that did was help. He joined the gangs. And he did that to be the ultimate protector of our family. Now, Hunting Park is called Hunting Park in Philadelphia. As a child, I never really wanted to be outside too much. His sons and I could roam anywhere in Hunting Park because we were protected. The same gentleman came before us and said, I am on crack cocaine and I need help. The strongest thing a man ever did was to admit to his family he was molested. He's also on crack cocaine and that he was there for his family. He's the same man I had to hold on to his feet in Canada and call upon my ancestors to bless my marriage. When you are vulnerable, you have allies. Do it. With that being said, again, Showcase 001 on IG. It's always personal in Philadelphia. I love all these men here. You guys are all kings. And the queens here too. You already know.
Thank you, brother. Yushah Saad again, YUSHAASSAD. You can visit yushahsaad.com and find everything connected to the music. Or you can go to withgreatcare.com and find everything connected to With Great Care. It'll send you to the social media sites, to the websites for the clothing and the whole campaign, etc. And then get ready for May. In May, I'll be doing the Heal Me campaign, and invitation to any of the brothers on here if y'all would like to, chop it up with me on one of those nights. Let's stay connected. I would love to get them stories. Bless you. I appreciate it being such a powerful night. My spirit is extremely filled, and I'm gonna go give you some water and some food before I start.
That's right. Ramadan. Do what you gotta do. All right. Anybody else real quick so we can let you get some food?
I'm with you, my brother, because though I'm I'm practicing Baha'i, I made a decision to do Ramadan for this year because my spirit just felt like I needed it. So, you know.
Excellent.
About to chew off my hands.
Okay, and then and Martin, you got.
Yeah, I wanted to say, as somebody who grew up without a dad, I just want y'all to know that this is not fall on dead ears, and I am on deaf ears, I should say. And I'm just so grateful to be in the room. I'm so grateful to see so many men being there for their kids, you know, regardless of what you're going through or what you think you lack, like just being in the room is so important. And I'm really grateful to be in the room with y'all. And as a person who did grow up without a dad, I've learned that it's important to have different people in your life to learn from, you know, regardless of what position they're in, right? So I'm just so fortunate. I feel so fortunate to be learning from y'all tonight. And I'm gonna connect with all y'all on Instagram, on you know, whatever on all the platforms. And the thing that I have to plug, I guess, is it's Men Cry. It's a digital platform for a man, and just anyone who identifies as a man, anybody who experiences gender, which is all of us. That if you want to come on and share your story, if you want to come on and just be part of the community, because that's really what it's all about, is people who want to be vulnerable with each other. You can follow us on @AllMenCry. It's very simple. I'll type it up as well, but that's on Instagram @AllMenCry. And if you want to learn more about me, it's mnbnyc.com. That's just my initials and where I live. So I'll type that stuff in. But once again, just really honored to be in the room. And I can't wait to follow up with y'all and make more connections. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
And we're gonna help Martin find a new job too.
Yeah, we are. Right.
I know that's right. Listen,
I got you,
That's
brother.
right.
I'm following all y'all on IG already, just so you know.
Yeah, no, I didn't know who Showcase 001 was. And when he said the Instagram handle, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I got you, Paul. I got you. I
Love y'all, man.
You know,
All right, bye everybody.
fall back in this community.
Bye everybody. Thank you
Bye.
again. Thank you so much. You'll hear from us again. Bye.
I love y'all. All right, y'all.
Yusha, let's go eat.
I'm buying a clothing line. Let's let you know. Bye, Yusa.
Hey, run it up. Love y'all. Bless.
Bye.